I would love for Vishaan to share with the audience what he was saying about mixed income housing. I mean, what a magnificent thought, because those are the things we need. In essence, Bombay is a city of, it's a very non-hierarchical city. It's a very non-feudal city. You come here with your dreams and you know you can make it. All you need to give people is the chance, right? And if we can just create that little bit of empowerment where we give people a fighting chance, that's all they need, right? It's as simple as that. It can happen, and here's where it can start.
Vishaan, can you please talk about the mixed income housing in New York?
I mean, I think, virtually every functioning city has some level of inequity, because if a city is functioning, it means that it's successful at some level, which means people come to it. If you're poor, you go to that city because there's some chance of making your life better. And I think then the question isn't one of inequity, but one of social mobility. How does a poor person who comes to a city actually make a better life for himself or herself? And one of the things in our firm right now, and actually throughout New York City, we're working on a tremendous amount of mixed income housing. This started as what's known as the 80-20 program, 80% market rate, 20% low income, all in the same building. We are now evolved to the point where we're doing 50% market rate, 30% middle class, 20% low income, again, all in the same building. And to me, this is the same issue as the public metro or the public park, which is this idea that cities are, if they're really great cities, they're social condensers. And those social condensers mean that people who are looking to be socially mobile and get a better lot for their children and their grandchildren mean that if they find themselves in a mixed income environment, chances are, as opposed to a segregated low income environment, chances are they're going to succeed better. Their children are going to succeed better. They're going to find better job opportunities and so forth. And so to me, this is really the wave of the future, is understanding how to break down these social barriers so that people could live in the same neighborhoods, commute in the same train cars, recreate in the same parks, that is at some level the definition of urbanism.
Abhishek, as a developer, how would this work in India, do you think? Do you think it is doable? Do you think it is something that developers and planners here should aspire to?
Two thoughts. Firstly, some of the people in the room may know that the Maharashtra government has brought in legislation late last year that 20% of all development in plots which are more than an acre or more, which there are a lot of in the city, has to be reserved for low income and middle income housing, and the government gets to allocate it through whatever mechanism it decides. So I think the thought has come in. I think the equation will get fully balanced if the government also ensures that it is appropriately used, in the sense, as we've discovered with the SRA scheme, it's not that people can get this at a below market rate and then go out and let it at market rates, or again move back onto the street or whatever the case may be. So if that equation is fixed, I think it's important that people, like Meera was saying, in the city are given a decent opportunity to start. It has to start off with rental housing, those who come in at the very bottom of the ladder, and there has to be plenty of it. Then there has to be this form of subsidized housing, and there has to be market housing. I think every city successful in the world has to have these three sort of forms and layers of doing it. But I think equally important, why Mumbai's housing problem is as acute as it is driven by the fact that Mumbai has failed to expand in relation to its population growth. And that is another set of metrics which have to be addressed. This really, while you would want somebody who's low income or middle income to necessarily come and live in South Mumbai, the question is if we can get good infrastructure, decent jobs, and decent quality housing at the outskirts of the city, like most other cities have grown, which have grown successfully, have done, you would equally get opportunities for them to either come into subsidized housing in the center of the city, or you would get into self-owned housing at the outskirts of the city. And I think it's important for us to understand that the supply side of the housing equation is extremely important to solve in order to solve whatever housing bottlenecks that Mumbai has.
how closely integrated do you think the various levels of housing should be? I mean, if the lowest income people can only afford to live on the far outskirts, that affects their economic opportunity and everything else.
Yes.
I mean, can these sort of very integrated models that Vishaan is talking about in New York, can they work here, and can the incentives be such that it is attractive business for you as a developer?
I think they have to be made to work, and I think like is done in New York, as he had elaborated before we started the discussion, there is a policy directive or mandate, but it is supported by economic incentives, so
Right.
that nobody feels that something is being taken away. It's sort of in that sense, like he said, it's a win-win. Developers want to do this because it actually is in their economic interest to do it. So I think we have to make sure, and I think it's general, like Professor Pate said, ultimately the economic incentive is going to win. And we have to align policy incentives and economic incentives together for this to happen. I think the state government has made a start. It has said they will not take it free. They will reimburse construction cost. They've said that they will not take away from FAR. They will give back the same amount of FAR to the developer. What they've not done is taken into account the fact that because of this added density on the site, there may be some form of reduction in values, and in order to compensate for that, what are they going to think about? But I think the state government has made, I think the current chief minister is an extremely intelligent, straightforward and honest man, and this policy that's come through him in the last 3-4 months is unique, that Maharashtra has seen sort of a balanced policy. So I think it's a good start, and I think developers will as was mentioned, will have to take on some incentives which are taking upon themselves to make sure that the city thrives, because in the city thriving lies their own personal interest. So even if it is slightly less profitable to do this, they should come forward and do it. We as a company today have almost 60-70% of our supply in the affordable segment, and we could be perceived as luxury or whatever, but the fact is, with 60-70% of what we produce being in the affordable segment, we believe we are creating opportunities for this city to keep on developing, and that is in our selfish interest.
And this is affordable housing at market prices. I mean,
and like I said, in the extended areas of Mumbai, where we are developing, it's a very large development. We'll probably, like I said, have about 1 million people living there, about 500,000 jobs. But what we're putting in over there is, because we could buy the land in the outskirts, it's self-acquired land, but at cheap prices. So the profit hasn't gone to the landowner, and that benefit is going to the end user. And we're putting in the infrastructure over there, and the state government is enabling it through certain mechanisms. I think that is equally important, that good quality housing in all parts of the cities comes to the market.
Professor Pate, do you want to weigh in here? And I'm wondering specifically how this works in the context of slum redevelopment. I mean, people have talked about, touched on this a little bit, but that is obviously a big issue here in Mumbai.
Yeah, I think all of these things that were being discussed, I think are doable. And I'm going to say that they are doable through policy reforms, more importantly than all the other things that are being talked about. And I was very happy that you talked about the incentives. The incentive structure is such. Now, we all agree that in the best of the cities, public transport is the way in which his boss or whoever wealthy person is travels, etc., etc. Now, this is all great. All of us, I don't think anyone will disagree with this. But you look at the underlying fiscal tax regimes that we have in this country, they create precisely the opposite kind of incentives. Today, if I am going to pay, get the pricing right. On railways, if I am able to travel at 7 paise per kilometer in this city, what do I expect? I mean, what kind of quality do I expect from this? So, you need to have right pricing at the public utilities level, plus he talked about the FAR and so on. Such myopic way in which this FAR, you first create, I mean, this is part of my learning when I was sitting with the DP plan people to consult with them. They saying you first create scarcity and then you release it in an ad hoc fashion, and you start seeing that the state government starts using premium and as a source of income You know, it's like in the old days for our banking, the so-called social banking thing, we used to use the prudential norms as a way of chief fiscal finance. Similarly here, you are now today using FSI, which is a planning tool for resource raising. And how do you keep Bombay quiet? Well, it's the Bombay municipality, by sharing in that. So Bombay municipality very happy to say we are raising 1500 crores from premium. That's bad. That's what we try to tell them every time we get a chance.